So the Trojans, running for it like fawns, took refuge in the town. There they dried the sweat off their bodies, drank and slaked their thirst as they leant against the fine battlements, while the Greeks advanced on the wall, their shields at the slope on their shoulders. But deadly destiny shackled Hector where he was, outside Ilium, in front of the Scaean gate. Meanwhile, Phoebus Apollo spoke to Achilles, son of Peleus. "Why are you chasing me on those swift feet of yours? You are a man, and I an immortal god, as you might have noticed, had you not been so preoccupied with your pursuit. But surely you must be neglecting your business with the Trojans you put to flight. Look, they've shut themselves up in the town, while you have been sidetracked all the way out here. But you'll never kill me. I, naturally, am not marked out for death." Furious, swift-footed Achilles replied, "You've made a fool of me, Apollo, most malevolent of all the gods, by luring me out here away from the walls, to think of all the Trojans who would otherwise have bitten the dust and not reached Ilium. You have robbed me of a great victory by saving their lives, an easy task for you, who have no retribution to fear. I would certainly pay you back, if only I had the power." With these words, Achilles made fearlessly for the town, racing along like a prize-winning horse galloping effortlessly at speed over the plain with its chariot. So lightly and easily Achilles sprinted off. Old Priam was the first to see him, shining like a star as he sped across the plain, like the star that comes in autumn outshining all its fellows in the evening sky. They call it Orion's dog, and though it is the brightest of all stars, it heralds no good, bringing much fever as it does to wretched mortals. That was how the bronze gleamed on Achilles' chest as he ran. The old man gave a groan. He lifted up his hands and beat his head. With a great cry he shouted in supplication to his beloved son Hector, who had taken his stand in front of the gates. Implacable was his determination to fight it out with Achilles. Stretching out his arms, the old man piteously addressed him. "Hector, I beg you, my dear son, don't stand up to that man alone and without help. You are inviting defeat and death at his hands. He is far stronger than you and quite ruthless. The dogs and vultures would soon be feeding on his body, and what a load that would lift from my heart. If only the gods loved him as little as I do, the man who has robbed me of so many splendid sons, killed them, or sold them off as slaves to distant islands. There are still 2 of them I cannot find among the troops huddling in the town, Lycaon and Polydorus, children of mine by my mistress, Lady Laotho. If the enemy had taken them alive, we will ransom them presently with bronze and gold, of which there is plenty inside, since old Altes, Laotho's famous father, gave his daughter a massive dowry. But if they are dead by now, and in the halls of Hades, there will be one more sorrow for me and their mother, who brought them into the world, even though the rest of Ilium will not mourn for them so long, unless you join them and also fall to Achilles. So come inside the walls, my son, to be the saviour of Trojan men and women, and do not throw away your own precious life to give a triumph to the son of Peleus. Have pity too on me, your poor father, while I still live my ill-fated existence, since Father Zeus has kept in store for my old age a hideous fate, innumerable horrors I shall have to see before I die, sons massacred, daughters raped, bedrooms pillaged, little babies hurled ruthlessly to the ground and killed, my sons' wives hauled away by murderous Greek hands. Last of all, my turn will come after someone's spear or sword has removed the life from these limbs, and my dogs, turned savage, tear me to pieces at the entrance to my palace. The very dogs I have fed at table and trained to watch my gate will lie in front of my doors, restlessly lapping their master's blood. It looks well enough for a young man killed in battle to lie there mutilated by a sharp spear. Death can find nothing to expose in him that is not beautiful. But when an old man's dogs defile his grey head, his grey beard, and his genitals, Jesus, why are you thinking of your dick? Wretched mortals plumb the depth of human misery. The old man spoke and tore at his grey locks, and pulled the hair from his head. But he did not shake Hector's resolve, and now his mother Hecabe in her turn began to lament and weep. Drawing open the folds of her dress, she held up her breast. What the fuck? She held up her... I can't do it. Drawing open the folds of her dress, she held up her breast in her hand, because that's what you do when you're sad. With tears running down her cheeks, she spoke winged words. I've got to stop. Okay, I think I've composed myself, but bear in mind, today I seem to have the humour of a 12-year-old boy, so I may descend into giggles again, but let's try this, shall we? Hector, my son, have some respect for this, and pity me. What, your breast? If ever I gave you this breast to soothe away your troubles. What the fuck? Okay. Remember those days, dear child. Deal with your enemy from here inside the walls and do not... She's holding her boob out. Deal with your Deal with your enemy from here inside the walls and do not go out to meet that man in single combat. He is ruthless, and if he kills you, I shall never lay you out on a bier and weep for you, dear child of my flesh. Nor will your wife, however rich her dowry, but far away from both of us beside the Greek ships, the swift dogs will consume you. So they spoke, in tears to their dear son. But all their entreaties did not shake Hector's resolve. He stayed where he was, awaiting the approach of awe-inspiring Achilles. As a mountain snake waits for a man beside its hole. Come on. It has swallowed poisonous herbs, its anger is dreadful, and it stares intimidatingly at him, wreathing its coils round its lair. So Hector, his determination unquenchable, refused to retreat. He leaned his glittering shield against the projecting tower and, deeply troubled, reflected on the situation. What am I to do? If I retire behind the gate and the wall, Polydamas will be the first to point the finger of blame at me. That on this last accursed night, when godlike Achilles rose up again, I did not take his advice and order a withdrawal into the town. It would have been much better if I had. As it is, having sacrificed the army to my own reckless stupidity, I would feel nothing but shame before the Trojan men and the Trojan women in their trailing gowns. I could not bear to hear some second-rater say, Hector trusted in his own right arm and lost an army. But it will be said, and then it would be far better for me to stand up to Achilles and either kill him and come home alive, or be killed by him gloriously in front of Ilium. If I put down my bossed shield and heavy helmet, prop my spear against the wall, and approach matchless Achilles myself, if I promise to return Helen and all her property with her, everything in fact that Paris brought away with him to Troy in his hollow ships, which was how this war started, to give it all to Agamemnon and Menelaus to take away, and to divide up everything else with the Greeks as well, everything the town possesses. And then, if I take an oath with the elders in council on behalf of the Trojans, not to hide anything, but to divide it all up equally, all the property our lovely town contains. But why talk to myself like this? If I approach Achilles as a suppliant, he'll show me no pity, no respect. He'll kill me out of hand, exposed as I will be when I take off my armour, like a woman. I can't somehow see Achilles and myself engaging in intimacies from an oak or a rock, as a girl and a boy do, a girl and boy just the two with their intimacies. No, better to waste no time and come to grips. Let's find out which of us the Olympian intends to hand the victory. As Hector paused and considered the matter, Achilles came on at him, looking like the god of war, the warrior with the nodding helmet. Over his right shoulder he was brandishing the formidable ash spear from Mount Pelion, and his bronze armour glowed like a blazing fire or the rising sun. Hector saw him and shook. He could not stand his ground. He left the gate and ran in panic. But the son of Peleus, counting on his speed, was after him. Like a mountain hawk, the fastest thing on wings, when it effortlessly swoops after a timid dove, under and away the dove dives off, and the hawk, shrieking close behind, strikes at it again and again in its determination to make a kill. So Achilles started off in hot pursuit, and Hector fled in terror before him, under the walls of Ilium, fast as his feet would go. Passing the lookout post and the wind-swept fig tree, and always keeping some way from the wall, they sped along the wagon track, and came to the two sweet-flowing springs that are the sources of Scamander's eddying stream. In one of these the water comes up hot. Steam rises from it like smoke from a blazing fire, but the other, even in summer, gushes up like hail or freezing snow or water that has turned to ice. Close beside them, wide and beautiful, stand the stone washing places where the wives and lovely daughters of the Trojans used to wash their shining clothes in earlier days, when there was peace before the coming of the Greeks. Here the two raced past, Hector in flight and Achilles after him, a fine man in front but a far stronger one at his heels, and the pace was furious. They were not running for the usual prize at a foot race, a sacrificial beast or leather shield. They were competing for the life of horse-taming Hector. As powerful prize-winning racehorses corner at speed round a turning post, a great prize has been set up, a tripod or a woman in honour of a warrior who has died. So the pair of them circled 3 times round Priam's town, feet flying. All the gods were looking on. The father of men and gods then began and spoke his mind. This is an unhappy business. I have a warm place in my heart for this man who is being chased before my eyes round the walls of Ilium. I grieve for Hector. He has burnt the thighs of many oxen in my honour on the heights of Mount Ida, with its many ridges, and on the lofty citadel of Ilium. But now godlike Achilles is pursuing him at full speed round Priam's town. Consider, gods, and help me to decide whether we shall save his life or let a good man fall this day to Achilles, son of Peleus. The goddess grey-eyed Athene replied, Father, lord of the vivid lightning, god of the dark cloud, what are you talking about? Are you proposing to reprieve from the pains of death a mortal man whose destiny has long been settled? Do what you like then, but not all the rest of us gods will approve. Have no fear, Triton-born Athene. Dear child, I was not in earnest and do not mean to be unkind to you. Act as you see fit and act at once. So he spoke, and encouraged Athene, who had already set her heart on action, and she came swooping down from the heights of Olympus. Meanwhile, swift Achilles continued his relentless pursuit of Hector. As a hound starts a fawn from its mountain covert and pursues it through the glens and valleys, even when it takes cover in a thicket, the dog continues to track it until it finds it. So Hector could not shake off swift-footed Achilles. More than once, Hector made a move towards the Dardanian gate, hoping to get close enough under the well-built towers for those above to protect him with their missiles, but Achilles, hugging the inside path, intercepted him every time and headed him off toward the plain. Like a chase in a nightmare when no one, pursuer or pursued, can move a limb, so Achilles could not catch up to Hector, nor Hector shake off Achilles. How could Hector have escaped the demon of death had not Apollo come to him for the last time and given him new drive and fresh speed? Achilles too had been signalling to his men with his head not to shoot at Hector, in case someone else hit him and won the glory, and he came second. But when they reached the springs for the fourth time, the father held out his golden scales and, putting death that lays men low in either pan, one side for Achilles, on the other for horse-taming Hector, raised the balance by the middle of the beam. The beam came down on Hector's side, spelling his doom. He was on his way to Hades. Phoebus Apollo deserted him, and the goddess grey-eyed Athene came up to Achilles, and standing beside him spoke winged words. Now, glorious Achilles, dear to Zeus, our chance has come to go back to the ships with a great victory for the Greeks. Hector is hungry for battle, but you and I are going to kill him. There is no escape for him from us now, however much humiliation the archer god Apollo endures, grovelling abjectly at the feet of his father Zeus, who drives the storm cloud. You stay here now and recover your breath, while I go to Hector and persuade him to fight you. So spoke Athene, and Achilles was delighted, and did as she told him. He stood there, leaning on his bronze-barbed spear, while Athene went across from him to godlike Hector, borrowing the appearance and tireless voice of his brother Deiphobus. She came up to Hector and spoke winged words. My dear brother, swift Achilles has certainly been pressing you hard, chasing you at that speed round the town. Let's make a stand and keep him off together. Great Hector of the flashing helmet replied to her, Deiphobus, you were always by far the closest of all the brothers Hecabe and Priam had, but now I shall think even better of you, since you had the courage, when you saw the situation, to come outside the walls and help me, while all the rest stayed inside. The goddess grey-eyed Athene replied, Dear brother, our father and lady mother took my knees and one after the other entreated me to stay where I was. My men were there and did the same. They are all in such terror of Achilles, but I was tormented by anxiety on your behalf. Now, let's make a determined attack straight at him, and no restraint with the spears. We'll soon find out whether Achilles is to kill the pair of us and go off with our blood-stained armour to the hollow ships, or himself be conquered by your spear. With these words, Athene treacherously led him forward. When Hector and Achilles came within range of each other, great Hector of the flashing helmet spoke first. Achilles, I'm not going to run from you any more. I have already been chased by you 3 times round Priam's great town, without daring to stop or let you come near. But now I have made up my mind to fight you man to man and kill you or be killed. But let us call on the gods to witness an agreement. No compact could have better guarantors. If Zeus grants me staying power and I kill you, I will not violently maltreat you. All I shall do, Achilles, is to strip you of your famous armour. Then I will give up your body to the Greeks. You do the same. Swift-footed Achilles gave him a black look and replied, Hector, I'm never going to forgive you, so don't talk to me about agreements. Lions don't come to terms with men. The wolf doesn't see eye to eye with the lamb. They are enemies to the end. It's the same with you and me. Friendship between us is impossible, and there will be no truce of any kind till one of us has fallen and glutted the shield-bearing god of battles with his blood. So summon up all the courage you possess. This is the time to show your bravery and ability as a fighter. Not that anything is going to save you now, when Pallas Athene is waiting to bring you down with my spear. This moment you are going to pay the full price for all the sufferings of my companions you killed on your rampage with your spear. He spoke, balanced his long-shadowed spear and hurled it. But glorious Hector was on the lookout and avoided the bronze spear. He crouched, his eye on the weapon, and it flew over him and stuck in the ground. But Pallas Athene snatched it up and brought it back to Achilles, without Hector, shepherd of the people, noticing. Hector spoke to the matchless son of Peleus. You missed? So godlike Achilles, Zeus gave you the wrong date for my death after all. You thought you knew everything. But then you're so glib, so clever with your tongue, trying to frighten me and undermine my determination and courage, but you won't make me run, and then hit me in the back with your spear. Drive it through my chest as I charge, if the god lets you, but first you will have to avoid this one of mine. May the whole length of it find a home in your body. This war would be an easier business for the Trojans if you, their greatest scourge, were dead. He spoke, balanced his long-shadowed spear and hurled it. He hit the centre of Achilles' shield and did not miss, but the spear rebounded from it. Hector was frustrated that the swift spear had left his hand to no purpose and stood there dismayed, since he had no other one. He shouted aloud to Deiphobus of the white shield, asking him for a long spear, but Deiphobus was nowhere near him. Hector realized what had happened and said, It's over. So the gods did, after all, summon me to my death. I thought the warrior Deiphobus was at my side, but he is behind the wall, and Athene deceived me. Evil death is no longer far away. It is staring me in the face, and there is no escape. Zeus and his archer's son must long have been resolved on this, for all their earlier goodwill and help. So now my destiny confronts me. Let me at least sell my life dearly and not without glory, after some great deed for future generations to hear of. With these words, Hector drew up the sharp, long, heavy sword hanging down at his side. He gathered himself and swooped like a high-flying eagle that drops to earth through black clouds to pounce on a tender lamb or cowering hare. So Hector swooped, brandishing his sharp sword. Achilles sprang to meet him, his heart filled with savage determination. He kept his chest covered with his fine, ornate shield. His glittering helmet with its 4 plates nodded, and above it danced the lovely plumes that Hephaestus had lavished on the crest. Like a star moving with the others through the night, Hesperus, the loveliest star set in the skies, such was the gleam from his spear's sharp point as he weighed it in his right hand. with murder in his heart for godlike Hector, searching that handsome body for its most vulnerable spot. Hector's body was completely covered by the fine bronze armour he had taken from Patroclus when he killed him, except for the flesh that could be seen at the windpipe, where the collarbones hold the neck from the shoulders, the easiest place to kill a man. As Hector charged him, godlike Achilles drove at this spot with his spear, and the point went right through Hector's soft neck, though the heavy bronze head did not cut his windpipe and left him still able to speak. Hector crashed in the dust, and godlike Achilles triumphed over him. Hector, no doubt you imagined, as you stripped Patroclus, that you would be safe. You never thought of me. I was too far away, you innocent. Down by the hollow ships, a man much better than Patroclus had been left behind. It was I, and I have brought you down. So now the dogs and birds of prey are going to mangle you foully, while we Greeks will give Patroclus full burial honours. Fading fast, Hector of the flashing helmet replied, I entreat you, by your knees, by your own life, and by your parents, do not throw my body to the dogs by the Greek ships, but take a ransom for me. My father and my lady mother will give you bronze and gold in plenty. Give up my body to be brought home so that the Trojans and their wives can cremate it properly. Swift-footed Achilles gave him a black look and replied, You dog, don't entreat me by my knees or my parents. I only wish I could summon up the will to carve and eat you raw myself for what you have done to me. But this, at least, is certain. Nobody is going to keep the dogs off your head, not even if the Trojans bring here and weigh out a ransom 10 or 20 times your worth, and promise more besides. Not even if Dardanian Priam tells them to offer your weight in gold. Not even so shall your lady mother lay you on a bier to mourn the son she bore. But the dogs and birds of prey will divide you up, leaving nothing. Dying, Hector of the flashing helmet said, How well I know you and see you for what you are. Your heart is hard as iron. I have been wasting my breath, but reflect now before you act, in case angry gods remember how you treated me, on the day Paris and Phoebus Apollo bring you down in all your greatness at the Scaean gate. As he spoke, the end, that is death, enveloped him. Life left his limbs and took wing for the house of Hades, bewailing its lot and the youth and the manhood it had left behind. But godlike Achilles spoke to him again, though he was gone. Die! As for my death, I will welcome it when Zeus and the other immortal gods wish it to be. He spoke, withdrew his bronze spear from the body, and put it on one side. As he removed the blood-stained arms from Hector's shoulder, other Greeks came running up and gathered round. They gazed in wonder at the stature and marvellous good looks of Hector. As each went in and stabbed the body, they looked at each other and said as one man, Well, well, Hector's certainly softer to handle now than when he set the ships on fire. So they spoke, as they stood by, stabbing him. After stripping Hector, swift-footed, godlike Achilles stood up among the Greeks and spoke winged words. My friends, rulers and leaders of the Greeks, now that the gods have let us get the better of this man who did more damage than all the rest together, let's make a circuit of the town under arms and find out what the Trojans mean to do next. Whether they will abandon their town now that Hector is fallen, or make up their minds to hold it without his help. But why talk to myself like this? Lying by my ships is a dead man, unburied, unwept, Patroclus, whom I shall never forget as long as I am among the living and can walk the earth, my own dear comrade, who I shall still remember even though the dead forget their dead, even in Hades' halls. So come now, young Greeks, let us go back to the hollow ships carrying this body and singing a song of triumph. We have won great glory. We have killed godlike Hector, who was treated like a god in Ilium. He spoke and foully maltreated godlike Hector. He sliced into the tendons at the back of both of his feet. Ooh, foreshadowing. Between the heel and the ankle, inserted leather straps, and tied them to his chariot, leaving the head to drag. That's brutal. Then he lifted his famous armour into the chariot, got in himself, and lashed the horses with the whip to get them moving. The willing pair flew off. Dust rose from the body they dragged behind them. Hector's sable hair streamed out on either side, and his whole head, so graceful once, lay in the dirt. Zeus now let his enemies disfigure him in the very own land of his fathers. So his whole head was enveloped in the dust. When his mother saw her son, she tore her hair, hurled her bright headdress far away, and screamed aloud. His father groaned piteously. The people round them took up the cry of grief, and the whole town gave itself up to the despair. It was as if the whole of frowning Ilium was smouldering from top to bottom. The stricken old man made for the Dardanian gate, determined on going out. And when the people only just managed to stop him, he grovelled in the dung and implored them all, calling on each man by name. Friends, hold off. I know you're concerned for me, but let me go out of the town alone to the Greek ships. I want to supplicate this inhuman monster, who may perhaps feel respect for my years and pity my old age. After all, he too has a father of the same age as myself, Peleus, who gave him life and brought him up to be the scourge of all Trojans, though none of them has suffered at his hands so much as I, the father of so many sons butchered by him in their prime. And yet, though I weep for them all, there is one I mourn still more with a bitter sorrow that will bring me to the grave. Hector. If only he could have died in my arms. Then we could have wept and lamented him to our heart's content, and I and his mother, who brought him to her sorrow into the world. So he spoke in tears, and the people took up the cry. Now Hecabe led the Trojan women in a shrill lament. My child, ah, misery me! Why should I live and suffer now you are dead? Night and day in Ilium you were the answer to my prayers, and to every man and woman in the town a dream come true. A man they greeted like a god. You were their greatest glory while you lived. Now death and destiny have claimed you. So Hecabe spoke in tears, but Hector's wife Andromache had not yet heard the news. No reliable messenger had in fact gone to tell her that her husband had remained outside the gates. She was at work in a corner of her lofty house on a web of purple cloth, to be folded double, and weaving flowers into it. She had just called to the lovely-haired waiting woman in her house to put a large cauldron on the fire, so that Hector could have a hot bath when he came home from battle. The innocent. She never dreamed that far away from any baths, grey-eyed Athene had killed him at Achilles' hands. But now the grief and lamentation at the battlements reached her ears. A tremor went through her, and she dropped the shuttle on the floor. She called again to her waiting women. "Come with me, 2 of you. I must see what has happened. That was my husband's mother, I heard, and she is a reticent woman. My heart is in my mouth. I am paralyzed with fear. Some disaster is threatening the house of Priam. May I never hear such news, but I am terrified that godlike Achilles has caught my daring Hector by himself outside the town and chased him out over the plain. Indeed, that he has already put an end to that fatal overconfidence of his, because Hector would never hang back with the crowd. He always advanced far ahead of the rest, second to none in his courage." With these words, Andromache, with palpitating heart, rushed out of the house like a madwoman, and her waiting women went with her. When she came to the tower where the men had gathered in a crowd, she stood on the wall, searched the plain, and saw her husband being dragged off in front of the town, and the swift horses hauling him unceremoniously away towards the Greek ships. Black night came down and engulfed Andromache's eyes. She crashed backwards, fainting. The bright headdress flew far from her head, with the headband, the cap, the woven braids, and headscarf that golden Aphrodite had given her on the day when Hector of the flashing helmet, after giving an untold bride price, came to fetch her from her father Aetion's house. Her husband's sisters and his brothers' wives crowded round and supported her between them. She was distraught to the point of death. When at length she recovered and came to herself, she burst out sobbing and said to the Trojan women, "Hector, what unhappiness is mine! So you and I were born under the same star, you here in Priam's house, and I in Thebe under the woods of Mount Placus, in the house of Aetion, who brought me up from childhood, the ill-fated father of a more ill-fated child. He should never have fathered me, for you are on your way to Hades under the depths of the earth, leaving me behind in hateful misery, a widow in your house. And your son is no more than a baby, the son we got between us, we unhappy parents. You will be no joy to him, Hector, now you are dead, nor he to you. Even if he survives this war with all its tears, nothing remains for him but hardship and distress. Others will take over his lands, an orphaned child is cut off from his friends. He goes about with downcast eyes and tear-stained cheeks. Need drives him to his father's acquaintances, and he tugs a cloak here and a tunic there till someone out of pity holds up a wine cup briefly to his mouth. Just enough to wet his lips, but not enough to drink. Then comes another boy, with both his parents living, who drives him from the feast, punching him and jeering at him. Go on, get out. You've got no father dining here. So the child runs off in tears to his widowed mother, the little Astyanax, who used to sit on his father's knees and eat nothing but marrow and mutton fat, and when he was drowsy and tired of play, slept in his bed, softly cradled in his nurse's arms, heart full of contentment. But now, with his father gone, suffering will be the lot of Astyanax. Town lord, as the Trojans called him, seeing in you, Hector, the one defence of their long walls and gates. And you, by the beaked ships far from your parents, naked, will be eaten by the wriggling worms when the dogs have had their fill. Yet delicate and lovely clothing made by women's hands is still stored at home. I am going to burn it all in consuming fire. It is of no use to you. You will never even be buried in it. But the men and women of Troy will do that for you as their last mark of honour." So she spoke in tears, and the women took up the cry.